All right, let's jump right back in. Today, we are talking about the power of the subconscious mind. This is something that so many people across the world are interested in. It's one of the most searched topics on the planet right now. So, Arash, in plain terms, simple terms, maybe third grade terms, what is the subconscious mind?
The subconscious mind, first off, is controlling everything in our life. So you got to understand it. It is our silent partner. You can't see it, but it is working tirelessly. And it is a storehouse of information that is with us since we came into this planet. Now, we've got to understand this. I want to put the actual setting. So I decided to get mentored by Bob Proctor.
Okay.
And the first thing Bob tells me, he said, if you're going to create freedom, you have to understand the laws of your mind and the laws of the universe. And I said, I know I've heard about the laws of the universe at this time, but I didn't know what he meant by the laws of our mind. He said, Arash, you just can't tiptoe around it. You've got to master it. You've got to understand how you work. And I said, tell me more. And he said, I'm going to get you so good if you do exactly what I tell you to understand your mind. And I went all in on it. See, most people, they hear the word subconscious. They hear the word conscious, but they don't understand it. And I'm talking about people who really study this. Mm-hmm. They don't understand it. It is controlling 96 to 98% of all of our results, perceptions, and behaviors. Now, like a month ago, we were in Europe and I was telling my wife, I'm like, I don't understand how people are not all in on understanding their mind because it is controlling all of our results. What I heard, it controls 96 to 98% of your results, perceptions, and behaviors. I thought to myself, I better understand this. And I went all in to understand. And you are not going to change your life until you start working with it. When you start working consciously with it and understanding it, where you become a master, where you get conscious of the subconscious, that's when the game changes. Now, we've got to understand, there's two parts of our mind. Our conscious mind, you can't get to the subconscious without the conscious. That's where thinking is. And that's where you're making your choices. Your conscious mind, you have the ability to originate any idea you want. For the life of me, I can't understand why people are playing so small. It's because they don't understand that. They don't understand the whole process. And if they just worked in harmony from a conscious to subconscious, they will create extraordinary results in an extraordinary life.
You said you went all in on this when you heard how much of your results it controls. You spent 15 years studying this with Bob Proctor. In the last 4.5 years since Bob passed away, you, I would say, doubled down on this and have gone even deeper. What is the biggest misconception that people have about understanding their subconscious and reprogramming their subconscious?
They don't understand that thoughts create all. Every thought we have creates a subconscious impression. And our subconscious is impersonal. It doesn't know the difference between what's real or what's imagined. It doesn't know what's good for us or what's bad. When we joke about ourselves, it doesn't know. And so once you start going deeper and deeper and deeper, you're going to uncover so many cheat codes, so many cheat codes. And your subconscious is tirelessly working on your behalf. Now, it may be working against you in the dark because you haven't disciplined your mind. Our ability to change our programming, because our programming is not running 95% of our life, is by getting in harmony with your subconscious the way you want to live. Now, to change your subconscious programming isn't hard, but it takes two things that most people don't have. It takes discipline and it takes faith. It doesn't work without it. Those two are the ingredients. Now, what do people do? They'll repeat something over and over again. They'll visualize, but they don't believe it. Well, their subconscious isn't going to believe it. So they're lacking both discipline and faith, and then they give up. They go, after a week, it didn't work. Or 2 weeks, I haven't seen anything. What's really interesting is when you start doing this work, really the right way, in the beginning, your results can go backwards because it's the last part of our old self in the 3D world holding tight to who we were,
So good.
So, your subconscious When you start working in harmony with it, it changes the game. And you're going to know when your goals become boring. Boring is a great sign. That's
okay, tell us why. Why is boring a great sign?
Because you've normalized it in your mind. When it's exciting, it's that real endorphin release, and it still says I don't have it. When you're wishing and hoping, you're saying it might work, so you're not fused with it on a subconscious level. But when it's normal, it just is. It's like the best way I tell our clients, it's like Tuesday or Wednesday at 2 p.m. It's just normal.
Yeah. And that's when you become detached too.
That's when you know you have it. But your mind, the best way to reprogram it is the first 5 minutes when you wake up and the last 5 minutes before you go to sleep. And how you want to do it is the last 5 minutes, you play a scene in your mind 3 months after you'd already achieved your big goal. Let's say somebody wants to turn their annual income to their monthly income. Let's say that was their goal. They see themselves with their family and their spouse, or if they don't have a spouse, someone close to them says, I'm so proud of you. Mm-hmm. And then you activate your senses. So it's like a 30-second visual, 30 seconds. And you see what you would see. You hear what you would hear had you achieved that. But it's not the day after you achieved it. This is like 3 months where it's normal. And then you're so calm. And it's just like a normal conversation. And you say, isn't it amazing? But I'm just getting started. It's like when we get a new car or a new house, it's super like exciting at first. And then a few weeks later, it's just normal, right? That's what I mean by that. Like a lot of people think they need to be excited. No, you want to be indifferent. See, when you're indifferent, it just is. And so and then 5 minutes in the morning, you do that same scene, but you sit in it. But that same loop of that 30-second scene over and over again. And when you do that, you stay in the state. That's the key. When we are changing on a subconscious level, in the beginning, we're going up, down, up, down. You're constantly going, spiking. You're like, I got it. You're judging yourself and you're like, oh, I didn't do it, right? But with the repetition of speaking a certain way, of being in control of your mind. See, on our conscious mind, we can accept or reject any idea. And in order to get it to the subconscious, what you want the most, you have to refuse in your thinking to accept anything that is not what you want. Mm-hmm. And the repetition of doing this is what creates the calmness. The last 5 minutes before you go to sleep and when you wake up is what is playing the scene on a subconscious level. Now, there's people who come to me all the time. They say, I can't see. Feel it. You don't need to see it. Feel it. It's the feeling, and that feeling isn't forced. It's becomes subtle. You have to enter in the feeling. So you don't force yourself. Feel that gratitude. Like if you had exactly what you wanted, would you be grateful? Everyone would be like, yeah, but I don't know how to feel grateful because I don't see it. No. Yeah. You've got to do the repetition and it's going to get easier and easier.
Hey, real quick. One of the most powerful forces in personal and professional growth is proximity. When you spend time around people who think differently, operate at a higher level, and see opportunities you may not realize or recognize, your perspective begins to change. The shift in perspective often leads to better decisions, higher standards, and much faster progress. In fact, I call this osmosis. At Voss Coaching Co., we work with individuals who are ready to step into that kind of environment. Our focus is helping high achievers and high performers expand their identity and create results that reflect their real potential. So if you've been listening to the podcast and you're serious about working more closely with Arash and getting his direct mentorship, send us an email, hello@vosscoachingco.com. Introduce yourself. Let us know a little bit about you and your goals, and our team will be in touch. Again, that email is hello@vosscoachingco.com. All right, right back to the episode.
You just gave everyone such a powerful, incredible tool for reprogramming their subconscious mind. If they look at their subconscious mind right now, where did all of the current beliefs and programming come from?
From everywhere.
Okay.
From really everyone they've ever been associated with. But the biggest belief comes from our parents, our grandparents, the people you spend the most time with. And so a lot of people love gathering information. gathering information doesn't change the program. It's the implementation of following what I just went over. It's the thinking in a certain way. What is that certain way from your goal already achieved? So you have to be already in possession of the good you desire. How would you think if you were already in possession? You would not be striving. I promise you that.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to think about when you've gotten your best ideas. I want everyone just to sit there. Where did I get my best ideas from? I can tell you where it wasn't. It wasn't from sitting at your desk grinding. It was either you were in the shower, you were driving, you were exercising. Why? Because you were separate from forcing it. That's your subconscious working for you. But you've got to give your subconscious orders. Before you go to sleep, your conscious mind is out of the way. And for the next 8 hours, your subconscious is tirelessly working on the last thoughts you've given it. But what do most people give it? Worry, doubt, fear.
Anxiety.
What happened during the day? What you want to give it is direction. Divine wealth is who I am. I am already the man or woman who is exactly who I need to be. I'm at peace. It is already done. You've got to give these commands, and when you do, it just naturally accepts it.
So you just mentioned thinking in a certain way. I've also heard you mention accurate thinking. What is that the same thing as positive thinking, or what is the difference?
No, I don't believe in positive thinking. Negative thinking never works. We know that. But accurate thinking is thinking in a certain way. That way is aligned with your future self. That way is aligned with your goal. Anybody who wants more abundance in their life, they can't think lack. So every time lack comes up, you've got to reject it right away. Once again, that's in the conscious mind. You can accept or reject any idea. Because if I keep thinking lack, I'm never going to create abundance. That's what most people are doing. They think, no, I'm a good person. It does not matter. Your thinking causes all. So we have to get our mind quiet. Until we're quiet, it does not change. We have to get super quiet. And eventually, you will create accurate thinking the more you discipline your mind. Well, how do you discipline your mind? By thinking. And that's thinking in a certain way. So if you're wanting to increase your business, if you're wanting to increase your health, you can't think of yourself as I'm overweight. You've got to already see yourself, and then you've got to start making healthy choices. If you want to increase your business, how can I serve more? But you can't entertain one thought, literally one thought of lack. Now, let's say you do that. I don't expect you to be perfect, and I don't expect this change to be automatic. It takes time. You grow into that person. So you don't beat yourself up. You become aware of it.
Arash, we brushed past autosuggestion for just a second, but because it is so important and so vital to programming the subconscious mind, I want to go deeper. Walk us through exactly how it works, which I think you did. It's a suggestion from yourself to yourself, but also why is repetition so important when it comes to autosuggestion?
Well, repetition is the mother of all learning, but I have a different stance on repetition than most people. Repetition has to be mixed with deliberate practice. Deliberate practice is an intention with that repetition. So it's like repetition on steroids. Now, right now, everyone listening to this is doing repetition unconsciously. But you're not going to change if you're doing the same repetition. You've got to improve it by 1% every day. So that's when you have an intent. And when 1%, it's an inch over what you're doing, and just an inch. But when you mix it, you are going to change the game. But for me, autosuggestion is just as real as my hand because I know it works. Well, why doesn't it work for most people? Because they affirm something that their senses deny because they're living out of their senses. You got to start understanding. That's where I said faith comes in. Faith is only accompanied with a positive mental attitude. Now think about this. If you have a negative mental attitude, you're not in faith. And if you're not in action, you're not in faith. But faith is on a subconscious level. You just know that you know that you know. Well, the more repetition with deliberate practice, your faith muscle is going to grow so quickly. Mm-hmm. It is going to grow so quickly.
Arash, you talk about working on your subconscious mind, and you just made a great reference to your left hand. When you're working on your subconscious mind, you're learning about your subconscious mind. Is there any of it that you can reach out and touch or feel, or is it just belief and faith?
You could feel it. You can't touch it.
Yeah.
You could feel it though. Like everyone's had an experience, thousands of experience in their life where all of a sudden they got this aha. Where do you think that came from? It came from your subconscious, but you were open to receiving it. Mm-hmm. But the faith is critical. Like people are so faithful to what is because we've been trained like that our whole life. I'll believe it when I see it. You know, we've got to be more loyal and more faithful to what we want the most than what we currently have. That's why I say this on so many different forums. And it's really sad to me, and I could speak on it because I used to be that person. Mm. But people are not living their life. They're managing their life from what is. They're wanting to make sure, well, what's the worst that can happen? Why not what's the best that can happen? We've got to create our life by design. We're creators. And what do you think our goals are? We're want creators. We are looking for a goal, a direction to go to. Every morning you get up, you don't go and say, the water's just there. You have an idea in your mind, I'm going to go have some water. And so we've got to start really spending time in deciding who we're going to be and who we're not going to be. And we've got to kill off that old self. That old self is subtle. But in changing it on a subconscious level, you're going to have to be persistent before you see it. The last 5 minutes before you're going to ever see it with your physical senses is right before it's going to happen. But that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. I have clients all the time. I tell them, you're about to have a quantum leap. They go, how do you know? I say, because all I have to do is notice your emotional state. Like I know.
Is that how they can know that it's working
too? Yeah. The biggest sign you know it's coming is you're calm. It's boring. You get indifferent. You know, like you're not thinking about why it won't happen. You just know why it will, and you just do your work every day.
I want to talk about a specific exercise that people can do beyond just autosuggestion when it comes to their subconscious mind, because I think right now one of the biggest issues that people have is that they don't understand the power of it at all.
Well, number one, you have to decide again. You have to decide to understand it, because it doesn't matter what I tell you. It matters, am I going to catch myself thinking in reverse? That's when I would reject. And the best practice I can give anybody is create the scene in their mind. That is the best practice I can give anybody. Mm-hmm. And get so good at looping that scene. But you have to be in the scene. And then I'm talking not an hour long. I'm talking spend 5 minutes in this 30-second loop over and over again. And then let your senses, what you would see had it already happened. But this is 3 months after it happened. Like this is normal now. And then it's about controlling your thinking, accepting and rejecting. You have to go all in on that if you're going to change your subconscious programming.
I want to touch on something that you said earlier one more time. You said you have to be most loyal to the best version of yourself. Do you think that the vast majority of people are most loyal to a lower version of themselves, and that's one of the biggest issues?
Yeah, they're most loyal to what is. So they're so undisciplined. Now, I'm not talking actions. I'm talking undisciplined in their thinking. That something can trigger them right away and they go down different states. You know, like they just drop so much. Like you got to understand states, because your subconscious, like if I said right now I'm in Paris, I'm in Paris. That's the state I go on. But I can believe it because I can accept ideas. So we got to get really good at accepting ideas. That's what Wayne Dyer said. Wayne Dyer had such a great quote. And he said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. That's what I'm talking about. Start seeing based on how you want to live. Now, it's not going to change today, but you're going to look back and you're going to say, I know the day that I committed to working in harmony with my silent partner. And you've got to give it orders. You've got to give it direction. You've got to have I am statements. I am is identity based. You know, you have to start giving this, not I will be wealthy. I am wealthy, then feel wealthy. If you just say I'm wealthy, it has no power. But you have to mix it with a feeling. But you have to get that 30-second loop already being in possession of it.
And one more thing that you said creation is already finished. So we don't have to try to bring wealth to us. We have to activate it.
We never try to bring wealth. wealth is in our consciousness. Poverty is in our consciousness. Like, I can tell you this, if I put energy on poverty, that's what I'm going to bring to the surface. So it's not like all of a sudden somebody becomes wealthy, that it was somewhere out there. They activated in their consciousness, and their consciousness is going to start attracting the right ideas, the right circumstances, the right people. Now, people will be like, no, that's not how we're, okay, fine. I'll give you a story. I have a great client and love him, but he's a lawyer, and he said months ago, he said, I don't understand, Arash, how I could do $1 million in business. And I said, not with that attitude. And then the other day I talked to him, and he said to me, he said, you'll never believe this. He goes, you remember that conversation we had? And I said, yeah. He said, well, somebody was retiring and they asked me to take over their business. And he says, now the way showed itself. I said, I told you, Joe. See, our job is not the how. That's God's job. Our job is the what. But our job is to be in control of our thinking, in control of our emotions, and in control of stepping out and acting on ideas. When you start doing that, and you've got to really get good at training your emotional state. Your emotional state, you pick one or two emotions, and you start living from those. But just don't force the emotion. Let it happen. And when you let it happen, that's going to be the emotion, and that's what creates normalization.
So good. All right, last thing. Final thoughts on power of your subconscious mind.
Well, until you work in harmony with it, nothing is going to go your way. Like, you'll have great things happen, but then you'll sabotage. That's where sabotage comes from. But when you start understanding it, you'll course correct, be like, okay, that was me. I've been thinking in reverse. You know, you're going to understand it. So, but the best part of it is you have somebody working with you. Like, you got to create a relationship with it. You know, call it a name. Like mine, I call sub. I'm talking to it all the time. I have a relationship with it. And when you do that, it's gonna change. And how you're gonna know, though, you're gonna believe in it just like you believe in the things that you're believing in right now.
So good. Arash, thank you so much. And thanks to all of you. Hopefully you feel really empowered after today's talk, and you look forward to igniting the power of your subconscious mind, learning more about it, and activating it. If you enjoyed today's episode, go ahead and leave us a rating and review. Share this with your friends and family on social media, and we'll see you next week with another episode of the 7-Figure Standard podcast.
Thank you for listening to this episode of 7-Figure Standard. We hope you found the insights and strategies helpful on your journey to success. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform to help us reach more people like you. To learn more about Arash and Mikey and how Voss Coach & Co. can help you achieve your goals and reach new levels of success, visit vosscoachandco.com. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of 7-Figure Standard.